feel we're always evolving. That's kind of like life, right? That's like what we signed up for with this whole thing called life, the evolutionary process that we are always changing, we're always evolving. And if you find a belief system or a practice that works for you today that is not what you did yesterday, I say go with it. Why hold yourself back? If you found a gem that can propel you, why hold yourself back? Is it culture? Is it ethnicity? Is it race? Is it nationality? What is holding you back from your evolution? What is holding you back? What are you committed to that's not serving you? And that goes for myself, to be very candid. That absolutely goes for myself. And I could say, there's always reasons for everything, right? I could say, it's the environment I've been in, and I've been bombarded by negativity, and I've, kind of been forced into a place where I've been more of a fault finder, right? Because I raised the point of the idea of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We've gotten to a culture where somebody can say one thing and then everybody wants to write them off because of one thing that they said. But like their entire legacy has been doing like amazing things. But you don't like their stance on like one thing. So you're going to dismiss their entire body of work. You're going to dismiss them at their entire, everything that they've done good. You're going to minimize them or reduce them to one mistake, one error, one philosophy or way of life that you don't see things that you don't believe in. You reduce them to that. And then you have to do personal inventory and say, why am I wired that way? Because as far as my belief system, and I've been wrong before, people, I will be wrong again. But from what I understand, and if I'm wrong, please, by all means, I humbly ask you, jump in my DMs or post below and say, sister, you are wrong. But from what I understand, our Creator actually gives us more blessings for the good that we do than the wrong that we do. So let's say like you do something wrong, that's counted as 1 point. You do something right, you get like 5 points for that. What does that say? That says that if we come from a source of love, that our Creator is inclined and wired for us to win. So much so that you can repent. The belief in Islam is every single time it's Ramadan, right? You watch Muslims, like I'm like on my Ramadan countdown. And it's like Ramadan's not for a couple months and I'm already on my Ramadan countdown. You're like, as a non-Muslim, you're like, why are you guys so excited about Ramadan? I know for me, that's like the highlight of my year. And it's not just because I'm a foodie. And Ramadan requires me to cultivate self-discipline in matters of my appetite. But the belief is that for that month of Ramadan, the shaitan is shackled. And that if you have a proper fast, that your deeds prior to that Ramadan are wiped away and erased. That the wrongs that you've done, if you fast properly, because it's a task. And the Muslims that have fasted during the summer months of Ramadan, the July and the August, the Junes, are like, yeah, it's a requirement of the faith. And it's a task. Because when it's the longest days of the year, summertime, where the sun is rising the earliest and it's setting the latest, and you're dealing with long days where the sun is not setting until like 8 o'clock at night or whatever, and it rises at like, 4:30 in the morning, whatever, and you can't drink any water, and it's like, especially, God bless the Saudi and the Arab Muslims who are in these like desert-like environments. And may Allah bless the Muslimas who aren't scantily clad like myself. because these women are head to toe covered up. And they're at the marketplace, and they're tending to the children, the babies, and they're nursing. And actually, if you're breastfeeding, you don't fast. But, if you have a young child, you're still fasting. So may Allah reward them. May Allah reward them, because we do talk about how tough it is to be a believer in the West, but there are some challenges that are presented when you're a believer in the East. And these days are long, and the heat is like 103 degrees, and you can't even drink water. And you're fasting, and you're just praying all the time, fasting and praying all the time for Allah. Like you say you believe, but how are you able to sacrifice? And this is the reason why when I say on this Valentine's Day, I tell ladies, get a believer, get a righteous man, get a man of Allah. Because if a man is willing to go through 30 days of Ramadan, and he's willing to sacrifice for his God, and get down on his knees and pray, and do the requirements that are set forth as far as the instructions of being a good believer, that's going to be a good man to you. Because he has cultivated a level of self-discipline, and he knows what it means to sacrifice. He's gone a whole month. Every single year he goes a whole month without eating. Sometimes in the hot sun. No water. Because of his love for his God. So you know that man is going to have a certain level of discipline, willpower, and sacrifice when it comes to you. But I say this to say that we look forward to Ramadan because in what we are told, our sins are wiped away. So whatever bad things you've done in the past, Ramadan gives you a whole clean slate. And it's like a rebirth. It's like a renewal of the soul. It's like a renewal of the mind after Ramadan. So we very much look forward to that, because none of us are perfect here. And I'll say that it could be my environment, but I did find myself kind of gravitating towards fault finding still. And that's something that I have to personally work on. And I can list a ton of things. I'm flawed. I'm a very flawed human being. There's nothing perfect about me. I have numerous, plentiful imperfections. I have to pray for melodies from heaven to fall down on me so I don't keep hitting that same note. But I say this to say that just like I can be self-critical and have personal inventory of the things that I need to fine-tune in my life to become a better me, a more evolved me, and that includes shedding and purging certain belief systems. I'll talk on a personal level, because a lot of times I try to keep it more general, but personally, some of the circumstances that I've had to endure, the things that I've been going through on a personal level, have been really very vile. It's been very volatile, vile behavior done by white people. And when I say volatile behavior, I mean I don't want to keep dwelling on the whole thing of calling my son a panda, but I don't understand if you understand how diabolical that is. A single mother hearing a white woman say that she wants her son to be preyed on by child sex predators. That's disturbing on so many different levels. And so I've been attacked, my life has been attacked by these people. And being a Black Studies minor, I just had to put it in place and say, well, are these people evil? And I'm not going to backtrack or take back anything that I said, but I want people to begin to put things in context, right? And so right now, the place that I'm at and the thoughts that I have and the challenges that have come upon me have forced me to tap into a certain part of me that is very much a necessary part of me. Because where I will end up in my journey, these will be tools that will be required for my next level. Perhaps it was a certain sense of naivety, whatever it is, that had to be deaded prior to the next stage of life. So I had to go through this. I don't question a lot, right? I don't question the journey. I just obey. But I think that it is important to put things into proper context and understand that a lot of times people's frame of mind and where they're at emotionally has a lot to do with their environment, their experiences, their circumstances, various obstacles and challenges that life has given them or that life has not given them. And so that works both ways in the sense of a lot of times we judge people who may have had an easier background or like silver spooners, but to a large extent, you don't know how committed to the cause you would be if you were a silver spooner. If the very genuine like realness of injustice you had never crossed paths with it. If you were born privileged, right, in a certain sense that you never had to actually face, right, the very the very harsh reality of injustice, you'd probably be dumb or naive or ignorant to it, right? Ignorant to it. You wouldn't know what the fight was all about. So people are like, but that's a lame excuse because you can get history books. How closed off are you going to be? You can get literature, you can read up on it. That's a lame excuse. I agree to some degree, but it's like, if it doesn't confront you, we're just talking about organic human nature. If problems don't confront you, are you going to be inclined to go and research those things? You know what I'm saying? Most people are self-serving. We live in a self-serving culture, so they're not necessarily going to be bending over backwards to develop empathy for another human being if the skin that they're in does not attract those experiences. And I think that that's just kind of being real. So when we talk about personal inventory, which we all should be really actually gravitating towards because we all want to be the best people that we can be. I will go ahead and make that argument that man doesn't even really love you if he's not helping propel you to evolve. Like if there's parts of your partner that you're like, man, this person's so great, but if they only could just shed this personality trait or this habit or these types of things, like they don't understand how much they would fly. Now, it's up to you to select a partner that you trust enough to a high enough level that you know that when they are giving you advice, it's not coming from a lack or scarcity mentality. It's not coming from them looking at you as their property, them trying to own you, them trying to manipulate you or trying to tamper with your mind for their own selfish purposes, right? And this is the reason why on this very day, on this Valentine's Day, I would say don't be too thirsty and be okay with being patient when it comes to matters of the heart. Because your patience will allow you to sit back and say and assess that person. And truly assess that person and say, is this person trustworthy? And your patience will also allow you to cultivate the trust within. Because that's really what it's rooted in. If you trust yourself, you're going to trust your discernment and you're going to trust your judgment. When you reflect back to your life, when we talk about personal inventory, responsibility, personal accountability, right? Because we could talk about all these relationships and this, he broke my heart and all these things. But guess what? You attracted that no good guy. Were you a no good woman? You attracted that no good woman. Were you a no good man? And this is where personal responsibility comes into the conversation. And this is the hard, honest truth of introspection that people don't want to really do. And I don't understand why, because to me it's a joy. Like, I don't understand how you could ever be bored in life. Ever, 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 ever. To me, there's no such thing as boredom. I'm never, ever, 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 ever bored. Because there's always work to do. Boredom and stagnation is like, I've done every single thing that I can do for myself. Like I've mastered myself. And there's no one here that's mastered themselves, or else we wouldn't be here. We would have died. We would have gone to another realm. Whatever your spiritual belief is, we would have, puffed into dust, gone into the atmosphere, whatever. Like whatever we would have been abducted by the angels or whatever you believe. If you had reached a certain level, we wouldn't be here on this planet right now. So the fact that we're all here means that we all have things to learn here. And I don't think that there's anything like daunting, or I don't think there's anything like, it shouldn't be so like horrific or so scary to say like, yeah, I got some stuff that I got to work on. Like, I'm not a perfect person, and there's areas for improvement. There's like significant areas in my life for improvement. And guess what? I can look at that with an extreme sense of resistance and be so scared to tackle things and uncharted territory, things that are going on within my mind subliminally, thoughts and beliefs that I got to purge, past trauma, all these things, work that you have to do. Oh, I don't want to tap into my inner child. Why? Because it's going to be too painful, too hurtful, tap in. Tap in. Because once you tap in, and once you face your fear, and once you conquer these things, that's one less thing that you have to conquer. It's like leaving a plate, a sink full of dirty dishes. Those dishes at some point are going to have to get cleaned up. So don't look at it as a daunting task to say, I'm not perfect. There's room for improvement. There's areas for improvement. I have a lot to learn in certain categories of life. I got some figuring out to do with myself. There's nothing really wrong with that. And that applies to the collective. That applies to the collective. I understand that Black Americans sometimes are particularly sensitive about criticism and who is able to give criticism to the culture, who is even a part of the culture, right? Have you been vetted into the culture? Are you even a Black American? It's a lot of talk about that, and I think it's too much talk about that. To some degree, I was told at a point that I did not want to hear this advice at all, but I was told, a drunk homeless man can tell you not to drink. Now, your response could be, you're a bum. You don't have shit. Wait, you can't tell me shit. Or you could be like, yeah, that's the exact person that I needed to hear that from. Your life lesson really could come from anybody. If you are a pupil of life, there's nobody who's too high or too low to teach you a lesson. And if you are an eager student to become a better person, then you're gonna allow that lesson really to come from anybody. But that's a stage of humility and evolution that I can't even say that I've conquered yet, to be completely candid. Because I'm still particular about who my lessons come from, to be completely sincere and candid. But I know that when I reach a certain level, I'm going to allow my lessons to come from anyone and anything. And that includes somebody who may have shown up generationally in the avatar of a colonizer. This could be a Protestant white male whose advice could actually save your life. And you're like, that's crazy, all the things that they do. What if his advice is coming from his commitment to being a colonizer? What if his advice is coming from his commitment to keeping you enslaved? Because their commitment is more to the infrastructure than it is to your actual race or things like that. Well, what can you learn from that? I'm not saying to trust the guy, but I'm just saying, what can you learn from that? Right? As a student of life, what can you learn from him? You're totally dismissive to what anybody who doesn't fit the comfortable box of a teacher has to say, what they have to teach you. And that's largely the reason why you remain in stagnation, because you are not receptive to things that you don't even know that you don't know, to people that you don't even know that you don't know, to ideas and philosophies that you don't even know that you don't know. And the world is vast. So the Black community, I'm making a gross generalization, a huge generalization, because the Black community is the African diaspora, that is the Afro-Latinos in Brazil and in all over the world and things like that. But I respect the point of view of a lot of people who are fighting for Black Americans on this, on American soil, because I understand the high degree of exploitation that Black Americans haven't endured. People ask me what race I am. I believe that I am Black American. That's how I categorize myself. I am Black American. I am African American. My mother is from Africa. My father is from America. I'm truly an African American. I was born in America. I'm American. But that doesn't limit my perspective. And I would say even beyond my gender or my race or my nationality or my ethnicity is my submission to the will of God. I'm a believer. I submit to God, number one. And God, one of God's main characteristics and attributes is the commitment to truth and honesty. And I will not allow people around me, whether it's personal relationships or the entire Black community, to get away with lies. Lying to oneself. And I think that right now, the true question should be, how has the culture served you? You're fighting for a culture that might not have even been masterminded by you. And I want you to think about that. All the cultural standards that you fight for, were you even at the table when those rules were created? Of how you're supposed to think, how you're supposed to dress, what is Black, what isn't Black. I will be adamant and consistent. I mean, because to me it's nonsensical in a lot of ways, and this is the reason why you guys want to call me an elitist. You guys want to call me arrogant. You want to call me whatever you want to call me. I'm none of those things. Because every single day when I pray, I have to thank Allah. And I have to say, I am nothing and I am no one without you. And I believe that from the depths of my soul. Every fiber, every cell of my body, I believe that I am nothing. I am nothing without my God. But my choice to not mingle or interact in an environment that I don't feel like is conducive to my well-being is also my deen. If culture says that smoking weed and drinking and popping pills is the thing, and my deen says that's not the thing, me going around that, me engaging in that is going against my deen. So I have to put my God above my culture. And I have to say that I believe that if Black people are the chosen people, that we aren't generally acting like it. And I intentionally, deliberately, tactically withdraw myself from certain atmospheres and environments because currently I've been bombarded with a lot of hatred from white people. And I'm making a gross generalization because honestly, when I step out of my building, for the most part, I get a lot of love from everybody. Everybody gives me love. White people, Black people, Latin people, I get love everywhere. But here in this immediate environment, I've been getting a lot of hatred. I don't see the love in the culture right now. I see a collective of people looking for any reason to cancel somebody, looking for any reason to not support somebody, looking for any reason to throw hatred at somebody, any reason to throw shade at somebody, any reason to discredit somebody, any reason to tear somebody down, any reason to fault find. I don't look at that as balanced. This person can do a million things good, but you only want to talk about the one bad thing that they did, and you want to reduce and minimize them to that. I don't think that that's balanced. And for me, I say I can't really rely on the credibility of people who I don't believe are balanced-minded, because certainly we all have faults. So if you are inclined to be a fault finder, right, and all you want to do is you want to be dismissive of all the good that somebody brings to the world, but you can only talk about their one bad, I would have to look at your mind. I would have to evaluate, analyze, and dissect your mind and say, why is it so skewed Why is it so skewed to being kind of hellish? And it's masked as keeping it real, but it's not keeping it real, because keeping it real is being real about the good, the bad, and the in between. So I would have to evaluate your mind and why it's wired to only focus on the bad. And I'm not saying don't focus on the bad, because if that's real, that's real. But you should focus just as much on the bad as you do on the good. And so if we have a culture, for whatever reason, I have my hypothesis and my speculation of why our culture has become so hateful. If you would like to know, I know nobody asked me, but I'm going to go ahead and share anyways my opinion about why this culture has become this way. I believe that we have gotten to a place where we've become further away from God. And I believe that the reason why we've become further away from God is because of our, not God in itself, not what God wants us, but the people who have kind of corrupted religion, how religion has been used to harm us. When we talk about the trans-American slavery, when we talk about a lot of the worst practices imaginable, they were really used in the name of religion. These world wars and these crises where families are getting bombs dropped on them and kids are getting limbs blown off, it's all been in the name of religion. So people turned off religion, and then the exploitation of certain ministers, and I'm not here to point fingers at this one or that one, because I don't, a lot of people, shout out to Passion Java, I like him, Joel Osteen, T.D. Jakes, all of them, Kirk Franklin. You know, God is a God of abundance. So I don't buy into people who say, oh, these pastors are exploitive, because they're putting more in the devil than they are in God. They think that the devil is the only being that can give abundance and prosperity, but this God that you pray to is the absolute source and means of abundance and prosperity. So your reflection of abundance and prosperity is really a manifestation of the work of God. But that's a conversation for another day. However, we have to acknowledge that there are preachers who have abused that, who have abused the tithes and have abused the relationship with the people who follow, and imams as well, and rabbis as well. So people have become very turned off by religion, and they decided, I'm just going to do away with religion, and I'm going to become more spiritual. And I say, if that's how you choose to do it, choose to do it. But let your spiritual practice work for you. And I don't feel like it has. When I see the way that spirituality, quote unquote, shows up in the lives of people, I don't believe that spirituality has actually worked for people because of the way that they're wired. And what they've done with their free will. Religion requires rules and extreme discipline. You're like, I'm free. Okay, you're free to do what though? Are you free to destroy yourself? Because evidently and apparently that's what you do with your free will. Why are you popping pills? Why are you high on Percocets? Why are you drunk all the time? Why you always gotta sip? And this is not to be a fault finder. I'm just saying this is my personal reason for why I'm not really down with the culture. It's not arrogance. I don't feel like that's the best means for us. Why do you always have another woman's name in your mouth? Why are you gossiping so much? Why do you feed off of that kind of energy of trying to tear down the next woman or not? Like I'm sorry, if that's what the culture has become, I'm not into it. I support Nazirah, Tahudima Atara. I support certain people. You hear me always talking about them. Oh, here she comes with trying to put some spin on my support. Why is that the culture? In the deen that I follow, we mention Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, a lot. He's in our prayers. Nobody calls us a D-rider because of our love for the Prophet. Right? Nobody calls us a D-rider for our love of Christ, of Jesus Christ. No one calls us that. When we see exceptional qualities of God, we recognize that. Period. There's nothing wrong with supporting your brother. There's nothing wrong with supporting your sister for exemplifying divine qualities of our Creator. That's what we're supposed to do. But our culture tells us that that's deriding, or that's being thirsty, or that's being this or that, or this or that. That's our culture. It's too negative. And I don't believe that way. I believe in giving praise where praise is due. So just with that same mind that you use your words to fault find, you got to use your words to build people up and big people up. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. So I say, look, Let me go to my cocoon where I can develop and cultivate the rules that I choose to abide by, that give me peace, that bring me peace in this world, without the interference, the meddling, the influence of a very toxic culture. And you can call me whatever you want. You can call me, oh, I'm a tether, my mom was African, and all these things. And I didn't really have to struggle like that. You don't really know my life. I did have to struggle like that. You don't really know my life. But you can call me whatever you want to call me if you want to. It's not going to change who I am, what I believe in. Understand that. But you have to ask yourself, the culture that you're willing to do anything for, has it really served you? And do you even know who came up with the rules of the culture? Anyways, y'all, much, 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 much love. Pray for me, right? Don't talk about me, pray for me. Because I got some things that I got to improve on, including my fault finding. So pray for me. Anyways, much love, y'all. Peace.